Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Many of us struggle with sales, whether it's from confidence, comfort, and just not wanting to be salesy. We want to help our customers. We know we can, but we complicate the process. This podcast is designed to help professionals like you improve at sales through process, practice, frameworks, and thinking differently about what you already know. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and here's one thing you probably already know. Mike Simmons is here, the founder of Catalyst Sale. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
Well, it's good to have you back. Well, you're always here.
Always good to be back. I'm always here. So have I ever been back or maybe you're back now?
Maybe I'm back because I'm not here sometimes, which is wonderful for me. Not that I get to spend less time with Mike Simmons, but as the one that has been with you from the beginning with podcasting and to just see the progression from where we started to now you're just doing episodes on your own. It's just fabulous.
It's a treat.
It is a treat. Speaking of treats, I don't even always know what we're going to talk about. So what's up this week, Mike?
So I sent out a tweet a couple weeks back, and I just basically said, hey, getting ready to record. Had some really good topics the last time I had put a request out for this, and those included things like mistakes, discovery, price. Does anybody have any other topics that are not being covered enough or you'd like me to go deeper on? And we had one of the newest members of our team respond back. So Tanner, thanks, as you keep popping up on this more and more. Tanner responded back and he gave 3 different topics. And I think we can pull each of them together, but I'm going to read this directly. Number 1, confidence when starting in sales / why Catalyst sale methods can help. So I guess that's an attempt at plugging Catalyst Sale. Second is why sales experts hide when they need help or don't seek out the help that they need. And I know we've talked about this in different ways, shapes, or form around coaching. I think that's a really interesting topic about how important it is to go out and ask for help and work with people who can help you level up. And then the third one was around enjoying the thinking that goes into sales. So why don't we see if we can weave in his entire tweet into this and try to keep it tight. We'll try to keep this one to 15 minutes.
Okay, we'll do it. So tee us up with the first bullet point from Tanner again.
Yeah. So the confidence, I think, comes from being able to trust the process. It's knowing not something that's overly prescriptive, meaning do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Put things together in the same way that you would put together follow instructions when baking a cake. And there's a reason why I don't bake. I can cook, and I like to cook because I can get really creative in the way that I cook. I can add certain variables. I can add spice. I can tone down spice. I can add sour. I can tone down sour. There's a number of different things I can do with cooking, but there's a high level of flexibility if I know that I'm going to cook with chicken and the sauce needs to be tomato based and I've got a couple of herbs that we can throw in there. On the flip side, when we look at this and say, hey, everything needs to be overly prescriptive, meaning so now I'm going to bake. I'm going to bake a cake. If I bake a cake or bake a pastry, I think you bake pastries. If I bake one of those things or bake bread, there's a certain specific way that I need to go through it. There's some science associated with it, some clear measurement. And I am not very good at measuring. I don't know how many people are good at measuring. I don't know how many good people are really good at playing loose. But I think that when you have a stable set of systems, tools, methods, and approach, you can improve your confidence and your capability. And that's what we do with the Catalyst Sale stuff. There's some simple components here. It's territory planning. So understanding your ideal customer at an organization and individual level. It's account planning, who, what, why, where, when, how, understanding the story from the perspective of the customer. It's call planning, who's going to be in the room, what are their objectives, what are our objectives, what are our desired next steps. It's proposal planning. All of these are simple shapes that you can apply in a specific scenario, and those can help you kind of create some guide rails, help you as you prepare for those calls. So I think that confidence can improve when you know that there's a structure that you can go through that's not overly prescriptive. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. And it ties into what we were talking about with golf. Not to bring that up again, but it's the same thing that if you've practiced, if you've got your structure, your process, then the swing on match day, game day, what do you call a golf? Is it match? A golf match? A round? Round of golf?
I think it's a round. Yeah, I think a
okay.
round.
So on the day of the golf round, you don't have to think about any of that. And your confidence comes in. So yes, same thing here, that if you've got your processes in place, you know what you're doing, you've got your plan in place, then yes, you should be more confident because now you can just focus on the prospect, on the person right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. There's a certain set of tools that you have when you play golf. You've got a wood, or a driver, or a 3-wood, or some kind of club that's intended to help you get off the tee box and hit the ball long. You've got shorter irons and wedges that are supposed to help you get closer to the green. And you've got a putter that you use when you're putting on the green. And I've made the mistake twice in the last month where I've gone to the golf course without my putter. And I can tell you that putting with a pitching wedge is rough. And not only is it rough on your confidence, it's also rough on the confidence of others who are forced to watch you try to putt with that club. So know what tools you're going to bring. Like, I'm not going to want to go play golf with a hockey stick. If I do so, it could be, I'd probably be on the golf course for a long period of time. So by having the right tools, knowing how to use those tools, you can improve your confidence. All of that being said, you may have those tools in front of you and not know how to use them or what to do with them. And that will decrease your confidence. So there's definitely a balance here.
All right. If I'm going to keep you on track for 15 minutes, we need to go to the second bullet from Tanner.
So why do sales experts not seek help? Why do they avoid seeking help? I don't know. I mean, I'm constantly asking for help from people. I ask people for their opinions. Maybe that's probably because I'm not a sales expert, or I don't think of myself as a sales expert. And there's some people who would say I am. I mean, we've got a podcast that's about sales. There should be some level of expertise, or at least some level of experience here. But I think the biggest challenge that we have is ego. We feel like we've got to pass on this public persona of we have all the answers and we know what to do and we know what's next and we know where to go. And we really struggle with this kind of 3-word phrase, I don't know. And that follow-up for I don't know should be, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find out. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to go to some experts. I'm going to see who else has had this experience that I can lean on. I think if we can check our ego at the door, then we can improve our at least interest or capacity for asking for help. I think about some of the best athletes in the world, or even some of the best musicians in the world, or some of the best at whatever it is that they do. Many of them still work with a coach. They still have somebody that they go to, somebody who watches what they do, somebody who observes how they're acting and can make slight iterations, slight changes in their approach to help them amplify capability, help them get better. We've talked about this before. There are a number of blind spots. Blind spots are a real thing. If you go to the eye doctor and they put that paddle up behind your eye, you can't see it unless you move your shoulders or you move your neck. Those blind spots are real. The way that you can address them is through asking questions and being really, assessing yourself properly, or by working with someone who can ask you those questions.
Yeah, good. And I think if someone, you may have touched on this, you may have hit it right, that if someone gets to where, whether it's themselves or someone else considers them an expert, that might be where it becomes difficult to ask questions or ask for help. But if you just consider yourself a professional and not an expert, well, it's easier because I don't mind asking Mike for help if we're colleagues, we're both sales professionals. But if I'm the expert, gosh, how's it going to look if I go to Mike and ask for help in something I'm supposed to be an expert in? So maybe that is part of the issue, just the mindset of how do you see yourself? And gosh, if you're billing yourself as an expert, yeah, maybe it becomes tough to ask for help.
And you know what? I mean, some of these, in some instances, they may be asking for help in the background, but not asking for it publicly. And there's a difference. Like I can pass on an impression publicly, have this persona that I deliver publicly, and in the background can work on those things. I mean, there's the whole idea of fake it until you make it. And I'm not a big fake it until you make it guy. I'm also not a big fan of changing the way that you're changing or adapting for situations. I kind of am what I am, kind of like Popeye. So what you see is what you get, whether it's listening to me on the podcast or working with me directly. Now, what ends up happening gets toned up or toned down, depending on how well we know each other, is how direct I can be. In an environment where I'm in a high stress mode and we know each other really well, I can be really direct, sometimes ruthlessly direct or ruthless in the level of directness. If we're in a situation where we don't know each other and we're just, like I've just been introduced to someone new, my level of directness is going to be toned down a bit. So there'll be some of it you'll adapt to. So some of these folks who maybe outwardly they're passing on this persona or this idea of being, an expert or being really good at something, in the background, they might be asking questions to people within their network. So don't just think that they're not asking those questions or they don't have a coach in the background. They may. I don't know.
Yeah, good reminder there. But we have to move on to the third one if we're going to maintain our time frame.
Keep us honest.
All right. What's the third bullet from Tanner?
Enjoying the thinking that goes into sales. Now, I've heard it said before, sales is a thinking process.
I've heard that too.
What's that saying? I heard somebody else say this the other day. They said, Jody Mayberry says, as my friend Jody Mayberry has said, as I've been known to say. And over time, I
think that's an old Zig Ziglar bit there.
It kind of works its way through. So, I think you either enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, get out of it. Like, don't continue to force something just because you feel like that's what you have to do. So if you're not enjoying the process or enjoying the game or enjoying the challenge or enjoying the learning aspect and the thinking aspect of sales, then maybe it's not the right field for you. Maybe there's something else that you can do. There's some other valuable thing that you can do. Like salespeople who are really good at sales also tend to be really good at solving problems. There are a number of things that you can do out in the world. We've got a number of problems out in the world that could use some help with somebody focusing attention, time, energy, and attention and helping solve those problems. If you're not enjoying the thinking that goes into sales, maybe reapply those ideas and those thoughts and that process into something else that might be more productive that you do enjoy. If you think that you should still enjoy the thinking that goes into sales and you're trying to reinvigorate that, then the next thing I would do is I would coaching somebody, working with others, giving back, helping early career professionals get better at it. And then you can it's amazing how you can start to enjoy the process when you see others going through struggles when they're trying to solve problems that you've already solved before. So, when it comes to enjoying the thinking that goes into sales, if you don't enjoy it, then I'd say get out. If you want to enjoy it again, train others. If you aren't really into training others, another thing that you could consider is just kind of reflect back on what was it that you really enjoyed when you first got into this game. Is it the puzzle solving? Is it the helping people solve problems? Is it the connecting dots for others? Is it exposing folks to things that they've not seen before or that they've not experienced? If it's any of those things, get back to those ideas. And if you're not enjoying it, move on.
That's always good advice. If you're not enjoying it, move on. All right, Mike, here we are, 15 minutes, just like you were hoping. Thank you, Tanner, for the questions, the ideas for topics. But Mike, let's take just a moment here at the end. If someone has a question directly for you or just a topic they'd like to hear more about, how can they let us know?
I make this mistake every time and I'm going to do it again just because that's the way that I am. I've not learned from my past mistakes. One option, podcast@catalystsale.com. You can send an email. You can choose whether or not you want us to share your name, role, what you're working on. You can also go to catalystsale.com, enter in the live chat, and put information there. That will go right into our Slack instance. And the ones that I really like are the ones that you send publicly. So the ones that come to us either at Catalyst Sale on Twitter or at Simmons_M on Twitter. Those are the three ways: podcast@catalystsale.com, catalystsale.com, and direct messages or interactions on Twitter. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale Podcast.